I'm going to cut to the chase. You are struggling with finding a healthy and loving relationship because you truly do not see your own worth. And because you don't see your worth, it is hard for you to communicate that worth in your actions and your behaviors to other people around you. And that is causing you to do 7 different habits that keep you in low effort, below the bare minimum relationships. So, if this is your first time joining me, my name is Keshia Rice. I am a dating coach. I'm also a hypnotherapist. I help women learn how to recognize their unhealthy patterns that have led to unfulfilling relationships and then to free themselves from those patterns, attract loving, committed partnership, and create habits that help them also love themselves more as well. And we're going to get into these 7 things that I see so often that when women display these, all of their relationships end up being unfulfilling. Not just romantic relationships, which is what I mostly deal with my clients, but even your relationships in your career, with your boss, or if you're self-employed, with your clients, or your careers with family members or friends, because all relationships are related. You show me a woman who has issues with dating or with her marriage, she has issues with career and friends and family and all of that as well. Boundaries are boundaries. Good communication is good communication. It goes across the spectrum of all relationships. But these are the habits that I have seen the most, and I'm going to talk about them in the vein of romantic relationships and heterosexual romantic relationships. So you're a woman looking to build a partnership with a man, but again, they apply across the board, and as I'm talking about them, you will probably see how they apply across the board in other areas of your life. So the first one is chasing and overgiving. Look, it is one thing to be kind and generous and loving towards the people in your life, but it is a completely different thing to overgive, to set yourself on fire in order to keep other people warm. It is completely another thing to not just make it a goal to be in a relationship. Obviously, I think that is a worthy goal, right? I wouldn't coach women in dating and relationships if I didn't think wanting to be in a committed relationship was beneficial, right? But again, it's one thing to have that goal. Like, yes, I want marriage, I want partnership, I want to start a family of my own. And it's another thing to chase people. Because what these 2 things, and that's overgiving and chasing, have in common is they both reek of desperation. When you are constantly giving to a point that is inconvenient to you, when you are constantly chasing after another person, no matter how much interest they don't show, what you are doing is signaling that you are desperate, that you are easy to take advantage of. You are signaling that people don't have to put in any work in the relationship with you. So, you may get the person, but when problems arise in the relationship, the person's not going to put much effort into trying to make things better, into trying to work it out. Why would they, when they know that you'll do all the work for them? There's no need for it to be 50-50 in communication and in problem solving and in working it out when you'll go the full 100 to keep them. You will end up getting nothing but subpar treatment, and then you will grow resentful. That is what's going to happen. The second habit is explaining yourself more than once. People hear you the first time. That man heard you the first time. It is important that we set boundaries, and it is also important that we communicate those boundaries. So I never want a woman to go into a relationship feeling like the man that she's with should be a mind reader. Absolutely not. People like to be loved in different ways, and just because you like to be loved in a certain way doesn't mean that the people around you feel that way. So when you're in a relationship, of course, you should find out how that man needs to be loved or wants to be loved. And if you have the capacity to do that, then that's what you need to do. And if not, then you shouldn't be in the relationship, right? And the same will go for him. So you will communicate your boundaries, how it is that you need to be loved, what your standards are. And someone who is aligned with you and who wants to be with you will do those things. If you are constantly explaining yourself over and over again, it's not that they didn't hear you. It's not that they suck at communication. It's not that they still need a little bit of growing up to do. It is two things. One, this person's not aligned with what you want and need in a relationship. That doesn't make them a bad person, but it does make them bad for you. And two, if you are constantly explaining to this person how you want to be treated and it is the same thing over and over again, then you have taught that person that you can communicate your boundaries all day, but you don't actually uphold those boundaries. You don't actually uphold those standards. They know that they can walk all over those boundaries, they can trample on them, and you're not going to do anything other than keep running your mouth. This is one of those situations in life where you really have to put up or shut up. You have to make clear, hey, this behavior is not acceptable to me. And if you tell someone that you can't be in a relationship with them if these behaviors are happening and they continue to exhibit those behaviors, you have your answer on how much they care about you. That is the thing about boundaries. Boundaries are not about the other person, right? And people think that because they think that when you're talking about boundaries, you're talking about the things that you're not okay with other people doing in relationships. And yeah, you are. But at the end of the day, boundaries are really about you. So if I have a boundary, for example, that I don't do late night phone calls, right? And someone continuously calls me late at night when they know that I'm asleep, I can't control their decision to do that, right? If they want to pick up their phone and dial my number at 11 p.m., midnight, 1 a.m., whatever time, then they're going to do that. But what I can do is tell them that I don't accept phone calls at that time. What I can do is not answer the phone at that time. I can ignore those calls. I can ignore those text messages. I can put my phone on silent. That's the bare minimum. What I can do is see that if this person continuously does that, they don't care. So I could just go ahead and block their number and end the relationship. And then what little access they had to me before, they no longer have, period. So again, the boundary is not about them because it's equal opportunity for everyone in my life, right? If I say that I have a boundary that in relationships, I don't do late night phone calls, that means I'm not answering phones late. I'm not answering phone calls late at night for a potential partner. I'm not answering them for family members. I'm not answering them for friends, for, again, a coworker, a boss, a client, any of that. If I say I don't do late night phone calls, I don't do late night phone calls. I will not be answering the phone. And again, if someone continuously does that, then I will block them. I will not allow them to call me, period. They won't be able to call me at noon because they're no longer allowed to call me at all. And when you set boundaries and you uphold them, people respect that. I'm going to keep up the phone call example because it's an easy one. I have do not disturb on my phone, so I don't get calls. Like the phone doesn't ring after a certain time. And there are certain people if you have an iPhone, if you're an Apple girl like me, iPhone has a favorites list that even if you have do not disturb, the phone rings through anyways for certain people. And there are people who have earned their spot on that list because they respect that boundary. So I know, for example, my parents are on that list, my sister's on that list. I have like 2 or 3 friends on that list. My husband is on it, of course. But the people who are on that list would not dare call me at 1 a.m. unless it was truly an emergency. Someone's in the hospital or something like that. So that's why they have earned that level of access to me because I know that they respect that particular boundary. So the third thing on this list of habits that cause you to be in unhealthy, unfulfilling relationships is allowing people to be inconsistent with you. First of all, inconsistency is just a sign that they don't care. People who truly care about you, want to be in a really great relationship with you, are consistent with their communication. Point blank, period. Now, that doesn't mean that they're calling you 5 times a day or texting you all the time. But, at the very least, I have a friend. Actually, I have more than one friend that I could say this about, but I have one in particular that I think about that she and I are both very busy. So I want to talk about this in particular because people use that, oh, I'm so busy excuse as to why they're inconsistent. So as busy as we are, because I have my careers, multiple careers. If you don't know, I am a journalist and I'm also a dating coach. So, I have 2 careers. And then, I have, time spent with my husband and, family obligations, all of that. And she has a lot of different things going on with her career and her family and everything. We talk, like, have a real phone conversation, catching up with each other, like every 3 to 4 months. So 3 or 4 times a year. That's not a lot, but what it is consistent. And we don't miss those catch ups. And when we do talk, it's like, we talked yesterday, even though it's been a few months each time in between these conversations. It is consistent. Now, I'm not saying that that's something you want in a romantic relationship, right? If you're pursuing a romantic relationship, you should be talking much more often than that. But the point is, it is the consistency that matters. Again, a man who truly wants to be with you will make the effort for consistent time together, consistent phone calls. And if there's a reason why they have to break a streak, like for example, they talk to you on the phone for 30 minutes every day, and there's a day where they can't do that, they let you know in advance. You don't have to bring it up. They will let you know, hey, I've been making this effort to consistently talk to you, and this is why I have to break that pattern for one day, right? Now, at the very best, someone who is inconsistent just doesn't care, and they'll have you around whenever it's convenient for them, right? At the worst, this is a way that people will manipulate you, because what inconsistency also does is it causes this roller coaster of emotions where you get these dopamine hits when the person is in communication with you, when the person is making an effort to spend time with you, and you get on this high, and then you crash and burn when all of a sudden the behavior is the opposite. They go ghost. They don't talk to you for a while. The long conversations become short one-word text messages. And they keep you on this hook so that you keep trying and putting more and more effort into the relationship so that you can get that dopamine hit again. Now, the fourth habit that's keeping you in terrible relationships is taking on a role that is not the role that you are trying to be. And what I mean by this is you are looking to be this man's girlfriend, with the purpose of exploring the relationship far enough to see whether or not you want this to become, marriage and become that person's wife. And while you're in the pursuit of that role, this man is asking you to be his mom as well, and to take care of all the things like the cleaning, ironing his shirt, and allowing him to be a baby and not holding him accountable for anything the way his mother did. Or he wants you to be his therapist so that he can trauma dump all of his bad experiences on you. When you take on these roles that you're not meant to take on, one, you're going to build up resentment. Like, even if this relationship lasts, even if doing that keeps him around, you're not going to want him to be around after a certain point. But again, it also, back to the other habits that we pointed out, it also puts you in a position to show that you are low hanging fruit, that you are willing to do things that you don't like in order to stay in a relationship. It shows that when it comes to you being in a relationship, the bar is in hell, frankly. Sorry, I had to get a drink of water. But standards are important because they protect you from low vibrational experiences. If you truly believe that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, if you truly believe that God wants to give you his best, that you're meant to have an abundant life, then you have to act like it. And we'll get into that in a second, actually, because I'm looking at my list. The fifth thing that causes you to have unfulfilling relationships is ignoring the red flags. Someone who is rude to servers, to children, to the elderly, to people who they think can't do anything for them, will eventually be rude to you. Someone who has bad vices, they drink too much, smoke too much, curse too much, anything too much, they live in excess. That excess will eventually seep into your life and cause consequences for you as well. Person with gambling problems is going to end up messing up your money, right? A person who smokes all the time is also going to affect your money, because when it comes to household income, that is an expensive habit. But also, you have to deal with secondhand smoke, thirdhand smoke, and these have health consequences for you, right? So their excess is always going to be a problem for you. And it is often the little red flags that we notice at the beginning of a relationship that we think are okay, they're kind of annoying, but maybe I'll get over it. Maybe he'll get better. Those are the things that become big, gigantic red flags later on in a relationship. Those are the things that end up ending the relationship. Because here's the thing, when you first meet a person, they are on their best behavior. The first, let's say, 3 months of a relationship, you are not meeting the person that you're in a relationship with. You are meeting their representative. You're meeting the best version of them. And this is not like on some all men lie type thing or any of that. This is natural. This is how we all are. Think about when you first started that job, right? And how you presented yourself as completely eager to work, willing to do anything, just excited to be here, just excited to do anything for the team. And after you've been at that job for a year or two, like, yeah, you still do your job. You still do the things in your description, what you were hired for. But that's pretty much what you do, right? You do the things that you need to do to get paid. And usually that's it. Same thing in relationships. When you first meet someone, they are on their absolute best behavior. And it's not until after a few months that you really start to see what the level version of them is like. So if you're seeing a bunch of red flags right at the beginning of a relationship, it's not going to get better. Okay, so I mentioned this before. The sixth habit that brings unfulfilling relationships is lowering your standards. We have to have boundaries, standards, non-negotiables when we date. This is the one of the first things that I work with women on when they start working with me. Which, by the way, if you want to work with me in my Terms of Attraction program, I do have, I think, 2 spots open right now for one-on-one coaching. So you can head to the show notes and sign up, and I can't wait to talk to you. But the reason why I talk to my clients so early about standards and boundaries and all of that is, one, you really want to get clear on why it is that you want to be in a relationship to begin with, and then how you want that person to add to your life. And then once you know that, then you have to have certain standards in order to filter for that person, right? Because that's all dating is. At the end of the day, dating is just a filtering process. It is data collection to help you find the person who is right for you. And when you lower your standards, you don't give people a reason to rise to what you need, right? We teach other people how to love us. We teach people how to treat us. So when we don't treat ourselves well, because we overwork ourselves, because we overgive, back to my first point, we run ourselves ragged, then people think, well, you don't treat yourself well. Why should I treat you well, right? When we don't uphold our standards, we show people that they can get away with anything. We show people that they can treat us any type of way and we'll still stick around. And we also set up circumstances in which our needs won't be met in a relationship, because either A, we attract people who can't meet those needs, they don't have the capacity. B, we treat people who don't care and they'll treat us any kind of way because, again, they know we'll stay. Or C, you might attract somebody who actually cares about you, but because you've lowered your standards, because you don't stand firm, because you refuse to stand on business on what it is that you actually want, they don't know that they need to do those things to make you happy in a relationship. Closed mouths don't get fed. It is so important that we set our standards and that we keep them and that we communicate them. So the final thing that you might be doing that is keeping you in unfulfilling relationships is competing. And as I look at my notes, I originally had this as competing with other women, but I'm going to say it is competing with others, period, other people, and also other things. Now, I'm not talking about someone who's just met you and is getting to know you, right? But if you've decided that you're with someone and the two of you agree that this is a committed relationship, you need to be towards the top of their priority list. I didn't say the top because I think that, God first. I also think that it is important that we all love ourselves, right? We have to put ourselves above other people. That's not selfish. When we take care of ourselves, we're able to give to other people from the overflow. But after that, your partner should be next. And if you are in a situation where you are constantly competing with their family or constantly competing with their friends, their career, their video games, right? Their anime, insert whatever hobby, sports, whatever. If you are constantly competing with other people and other things for this person's time, effort, and attention, then you already know this person does not care, right? If you are in a relationship with them, if they stay in a relationship with you, they're staying because it's convenient for them to still be in the relationship, right? They're probably getting some benefit, whether that is you cook and clean for them, or maybe you're the breadwinner and you're handling the bills, or maybe they just want easy access to sex, or they just want to be able to brag that they bagged someone like you, or they just don't want to be lonely. So they'll take another warm body in the room, whatever that body looks like, right? Whoever that is. But again, they're getting something out of it. And so they'll stay as long as it's convenient for them to stay. But you are not a priority if they're constantly putting other things in the path that you have to compete with. So I want you to take some time, think about this list, maybe even listen to this episode again, and ask yourself, are you guilty of these habits? And what are you going to do to change that? And again, if you like help working through those unhealthy habits, where you learned them, where they came from, I would love to help you with that. Head to the show notes, or if you're listening to this on YouTube, head to the description and find out there how to work with me. But in the meantime, again, what are you teaching others about how they should treat you? Just think on that. I love you so much. Bye.
This podcast is brought to you by Contessa Digital.